So I love AI. I think the legal industry needs to embrace it. Like we use it in our practice because it helps eliminate time. There's attorneys got busted by the courts for like using ChatGPT to write a brief, and it had just fake court citations in it. So there's been multiple cases that they just, like big firms where this happened, the court's like, these cases don't exist. So there is, with ChatGPT and all this AI, like I always say, if you are a professional and you're afraid of AI, that's because you're not really good as a professional. I'm not afraid of AI because if someone wants to use AI, I'll just beat you on procedure.
Our guest today is none other than Rocco Cozza, a powerhouse in the realms of business and entertainment law. As the founder and managing partner of Cozza Law Group, Rocco has carved a niche for himself by providing innovative legal solutions to entrepreneurs, professional athletes, musicians, and entertainers since 2003. His expertise spans across various sectors, including corporate governance, intellectual property, real estate investments, making him a pivotal figure in any commercial or creative project. We're super excited to have him on the show today. He's had a TEDx talk on radical kindness, which I really want to get into today. He's got a book called The Alpha Way. I want to talk a little bit about that today. He has an amazing foundation, which I just got an email about like an event that they're having in Pittsburgh. So I want to talk about that today. And he's also a man of many talents. I found out that Rocco is known for his black belt in Taekwondo. He's got some culinary skills. We're going to see how deep those are. And he's definitely committed to his fitness. But at the heart of it all, really, Rocco is a family man. And that's what I see. I see Rocco with a big heart and spending time with his family, that's what I love, because he seems to have a passion to be able to help all these people, but also really dive into his family and spend time with them. So we're going to get right into it. Rocco, I appreciate you being here today.
Man, I appreciate you having me, man. Love it.
I'm not getting billed for this hour, am I?
Not at all, man.
I just wanted to find out. Because he's actually my personal attorney. So I also just wanted to know if I'm getting a bill yet.
You could bill me for this one.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's good. See, marketing expense. Yeah,
exactly. There you go. Expense.
How did you get into law?
So, great question. People ask this all the time. When I was a kid, I was an entrepreneur as a kid. Like I sold baseball cards, did all this stuff, but I was also a very logical thinker, and I loved to argue. Like I loved to talk my way out of stuff. Like when I was dating, when I was younger, I would talk my way out of things. So I gravitated towards the law. And I went to college going pre-law, then I switched to psychology. So I was a psychology major, and I fell in love with psychology because the way you had to think in that major. And then got to my senior year of college, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to take the GRE, apply to I wanted to be a child psychologist at one point. So I said, I'm going to apply to grad school. If I get into this program, I'm meant to be a psychologist. If not, I'm meant to be a lawyer. I applied, got waitlisted. So I said, oh, that's my sign. Took a year off, worked as a personal trainer, took the LSATs, and then went to law school the following year, and the rest is history.
Why do you think that you were that way as a kid and as a child? Why do you think you were always wanting to argue? And like, what happened in your life to where you had to be like that?
I don't know. Like when I was young, I think it was 5, my IQ was tested. So I was put in the gifted program when I was really young. So what's
your IQ?
It's like 140 something.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's
really,
yeah. It was,
That's a blessing and a curse.
It is.
Because I can't remember if I'm a 126 or 132. But I feel like people with much higher, their brain kind of sometimes gets in the way of, and my brain gets in the way sometimes of like being kind, what's right? Yep. And that's why I can't wait to talk to you about that TED Talk, because I'm sure you've learned some lessons along the way where the brain inside of you can like overpower the heart.
And the problem with that, with the brain, and I think like sometimes I think like everybody should think this way. Like I forget that not that I have any special talents, but sometimes I think everybody sees the world like I do. So that's where I get caught up. Like, how didn't you see that? Like, I don't think I'm anything special. So that's where I get caught up in. And going back to the question about arguing, I don't know. I was just always someone that I liked to debate people. I liked to challenge the norms. I didn't accept anything. Like, my wife will get mad at me sometimes. I question by nature. It's not criticism. I'm just a curious person. So if I ask her a question, I'm not criticizing what's happening. I'm just a naturally curious person. I think I've just always been that way. And people take it as being sometimes argumentative, combative, and it's not. I'm just curious.
Well, I mean, if you grew up like I grew up, asking questions was like a bad thing because it was like we were being nosy.
Yes, I was an Italian family.
And I'm not even from Pittsburgh, but I've been in Pittsburgh for 14 years now, and they call it being nebby.
Yeah, and I grew up in Newcastle, an hour north, very low middle class family. So that was the word they used. Stop being nebby. It's like, wow. Like
I just questions.
Want to know. Right, exactly.
I got questions.
I never accepted things as they were. That was my problem as a kid. Like if someone said something, I would say why. Like I just wanted to know why. It's not that I didn't accept what you were saying. I just wanted to understand why you were saying it.
Did that ever lead to feeling isolated as a child?
Absolutely.
Tell me more about that.
Yeah, it was one of those things where like you, again, when you question things that much and no one else is questioning it, you're kind of like, is something wrong with me? Like you really start to think about that. And I remember as a kid, probably like middle school going into high school, like I would think that sometimes, like, why am I questioning all these things so much and no one else is? Am I just am I the oddball? Like I didn't know. But then as I got into college, I just started realizing I had a unique way of looking at the world. And I just embraced that. Like it was one of those things as a kid, it's hard, because you want to fit in when you're a kid and, you know, there's all these cliques. And I was kind of in that clique that's in the middle. It was friends with everybody. You weren't the super popular kids. You weren't like this group, but you were the group that everybody got along with. But I was that person, that group that I'm like, I just felt like I never fit anywhere because I was always looking at things differently than everybody else. And it was a challenge for a while. But then I said, once I kind of got out of my hometown, got to college, I started seeing, okay, there is a different world out there. And it's how I see it is a unique skill set.
Did you have brothers and sisters?
No, only child.
Only child.
Yeah.
How'd your parents deal with that, with you being like that?
So my parents were divorced when I was really young. My mom basically raised my mom and my grandmother, and then my mom got remarried to my stepdad, who's been like my father my whole life. My mom has always been the type person, I don't care what you do, just be the best at it. So if you want to be a garbage man, be the best garbage man. So she just always instilled work ethic in me. Like she never, like I remember the first time I got straight A's as a kid. I remember the first time I brought home a C in honors biology, like in a 9-week period. I'm like, my mom's going to kick my ass. Like think of an Italian mother, like got a C, first C in my life.
You just put a little line on it. You can turn it into a lowercase a.
I was like shitting my pants. And she looked at me and she's like, well, if that's the best you can do. And I was like, mother effer. I'm like, no, that's not the best I can do. And that for some reason, like she knew how to say something to me in a way that was a positive reinforcement. She wasn't mad. She was just like, if that's the best you can, that's the best you can do. And I was like, that's not the best I can do. And it just pissed me off. So then I just kept getting A's.
Did you have a relationship with your biological father?
Probably till I was about 8 or 9. And then I probably never saw him after that. And he passed away when I was, I think it was like 23 in law school, 22 or 23 when I was in law school. I didn't even go to the funeral. When
did your stepdad enter the picture?
I was, I think, 9 or 10.
Okay.
So he's been around from 46, like 36 years.
So you pretty much, you've had a father figure in your
absolutely,
life.
Absolutely.
Okay, because I was going to be curious, like if that guided you any differently or.
I mean, but honestly, I was raised by women. Like I truly, like my stepdad was there to support the family, but it was
he's probably working all the time, right?
Exactly. My mom, my grandmother, my 2 aunts, like they were the ones that raised me, like, 4 Italian women. And, my grandmother was my biggest inspiration. So she's the one that really kind of pushed me to be the best at whatever I did. And my mom was there trying to raise a son, but my grandmother was almost like mentoring me through life. And she passed away when I was 40.
Wow. That'd be tough.
It was definitely the hardest thing for me, but I had to be the strongest in the family because like my mom and my aunts were a wreck. Like my son was a wreck. My daughters were a wreck. I had to be the one that held it together. So it was like, I think I grieved knowing it was coming. And when it happened, I didn't grieve like everybody else did because I'd already prepared myself. And I knew that I had to stand up and be the strong one to hold everything together.
That's a lot of pressure for a young boy.
It was definitely, but it was good because it was funny because my son in his, I think it was his freshman year of college, like he had to write about his hero. And he wrote about me. And it's on my wall in my office. And in part of it, he talks about like when my grandmother died, he's like, I saw my dad at his strongest because when everything was everyone was upset, like he held it together and he was unfazed and he's the one that kept everything together. And I hung that piece of paper up on my wall and it just motivated me.
Have you ever looked back at that like moment or other moments where you had to hold it together? Cause like, I feel like as a masculine man, holding it together, like that's the thing. And it's noble in one regard.
Yeah. But
then I've learned through my own journey, sometimes I wasn't able to do my own grieving or my own like trying to understand like what's going on. And I've kind of always had to just keep going and almost kind of like not run from my problems, but kind of just like try to just tamper them down because I have to be there for everyone else. How's that showed up in your life?
I mean, I struggle with it all the time still to this day. Like I always say, no one checks in on us. Like, we're the entrepreneurs, the visionaries. Like, we're making sure everyone else is okay. Like, I serve my people. Like, that's why I say I'm a servant leader. Like, I serve my people. Not that they don't check on me, but no one thinks to, right? They think we're supermen. They think we can do it all, handle it all. And it's like, there are some days where I just want to lose my shit. And I just hold it together. And it's like, and luckily, like, I've had these discussions with my wife, and I've been very open and said, I need you to check in on me every once in a while. I just need someone to say, are you okay? Like, that's it. And it's a struggle, because as you grow a business and you bring on more people and you're managing more personalities, it gets harder. And you almost, you become more selfless, I feel like, as a leader. And that challenge becomes, very burdensome. And I've learned with myself, I just sometimes have to reset. So I've become very self-aware of when I'm getting to that point of breaking. I just take a step back. I take a day and don't do anything. Like, don't touch social media.
Like, what is your, like, what's a clarity break look like for Rocco?
It's a day of doing nothing.
Like at home? Like, do you go somewhere? Like,
it could be as simple as me just sitting around with my kids, like working out, but not thinking about work, touching my phone, doing anything with technology. Like, that's all I ever need. Then, like, once a quarter, my wife and I will go away for a weekend and kind of get that recharge. But like last week, I had one of those weeks where, like, I just lost it. This past weekend, I just sat down on Saturday. I said, I'm just going to reset myself. And I just, kind of meditated for a little bit and just said, thought through things, didn't do anything that day, and then woke up the next day and just told myself I was reset. Sometimes you have to force yourself to do it. And I've learned that, no one's going to come and save me. So I've got to figure out ways to do it myself. And I believe the power of the brain, right? If you understand the brain and how it works, I believe if you know how to reset yourself, it's very easy to do. And I've just learned how to do that over time because no one else was doing it for me.
Can you share a story with me and our audience at like any point in your life that you believe was like super pivotal and like shaping like the person you are today?
Oh man, there's a lot of those moments. When I left corporate America was probably the scariest moment for me, right? When I just walked away from corporate America.
How long ago was that?
2018.
Oh, wow. So not that long ago.
No. So I was there for 14 years as general counsel of an IT company, and I hated it. I was miserable. Because I couldn't make an impact like on the company. They didn't listen to me. They were just running it to the ground. And then the final straw was they fired the CFO, who was a friend of mine and I thought was the only person that knew what they were doing. I was like, okay, well, this isn't going to work. And we were in the middle of an act. We were getting acquired by a Chinese company. I was running the due diligence from the inside, and I just came home one day and told my wife I'm resigning. I was like, I'm done. I'm resigning. Went in, new CFO came to town, walked in, had an all-day meeting scheduled with him, and just told him I was resigning. And I thought it was going to be this like climactic moment, and it was just I felt nothing, and I walked away and had to figure it out. And that was after a couple of weeks, I started thinking to myself, what did I do? Like, I put my entire family at risk. Like, I didn't have a plan. Like, I was making multiple six figures, benefits, traveling the world to having zero. Like, I was starting to practice law on the side, and I had some other business interests, but nothing was generating income.
Not enough.
No, not enough. It was like, holy shit, like, what did I do? And then sometime after that, my wife had quit her job to get into fitness training. So I'm like, well, we were both jobless. Like, what are we doing? And that motivated me. But it was like the biggest period of my life where I went through self-doubt. Like, I doubted myself more than anything at that point. I'm actually writing my second book about this whole journey right now. And it was the hardest period for me. But there was two moments that really made me realize I was on my path. This is going to sound like so like hokey pokey.
No, that's what our show's all about. So come on, man.
This is the first instance. I was at GetGo in Carnegie, and I went to the cash register, and this was right after my grandmother died in December of 2017. I resigned in March of 2018. So like it was like this pivotal time.
Just so everybody's listening, GetGo is a gas station.
Yes, sorry.
Yes,
it's
national audience.
Yes, true. A gas station.
That's all right, go ahead.
So I walk in there and I buy it was like an energy drink and a protein bar. And I go up to the cash register and it came out to $7.77. And the woman's like, that's an angel number. I'm like, I don't know what that is. She's like, look it up. So that means someone's watching over you. I said, okay. So I look it up, and that number means like someone's watching you and putting you on the right path. And then at the same time, it was probably about a month or two later, there used to be this app, I don't know if you know, it was called Shaper. It was like Tinder for networking. It was like, it was
swipe left, swipe right.
Yeah, it was attached to your LinkedIn. So it was like how people were making business connections. So I was on there trying to build my practice, and this woman reached out to me, had an Amazon business. And I had a bunch of clients who were like doing like online sales. She asked if she could meet me at Panera and Green Tree to talk about her business. Well, I walked in, she sits down and doesn't talk about the business. She's like, you're going to think I'm crazy, but can I read tarot cards and read energy. She's like, you have this amazing energy. Can I read your energy and then read your tarot cards? I'm like, okay. I'm thinking about like a hidden camera show. I'm looking around, I'm like, what is going, like, are you serious? Like, I had no idea what's happening. That's what I thought.
Ashton Kutcher's going to come out.
I literally thought, I'm like, this is crazy. So this woman does this tarot reading, and she gets to this one card, and it's like this one card in the deck, and she flips it, and she looks at me. She's like, I've never flipped this card before. She's like, this is the best card in the deck. She's like, this means you're on the right path. And this was like at a moment where I was like ready to just give up. Like I was questioning, like, I can't figure out what to do. I can't figure out how to make it work. And I was like, holy shit. And then picked up her cards and just walked out. Never heard from her again or saw her again. And I'm like, and I don't know if it was like a sign from my grandmother, from God. I don't know what it was, but that moment made me realize I am on the path. I just need to figure out how to do it. And it eliminated that self-doubt right in that moment. And I don't know how, like, I don't even remember the woman's name. Don't even remember her name. Not what she looks like. I just remember her flipping that card. It was like something with a sword. And she told me that, and I was like, and that changed everything for me, that moment. It was wild, man. It was wild.
Wow.
Like when I tell people that story, they're like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, I'm dead serious. Like that happened.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and it was because I truly thought, I'm like, I have to be on a hidden camera show. Like, where is the camera crew? Like, how does this woman just like not talk about Amazon at all, pull out a deck of tarot cards in a Panera and just flipping them on a table? I'm sitting there in a suit. I'm like, what is going on right now? And she tells me this, and I'm like, okay, so that was a pivotal moment.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
What? Has there been any other moments in your life? Because I know you do a lot of content. You know, you're on podcasts all the time. You like, I looked at your social media. I haven't looked at your social media. I see your stuff come up in my stories and in my Instagram, but I never actually clicked on your thing.
Yeah,
you're up to like 300,000 like followers on Instagram. Yeah. You probably have like TikTok. I don't even know. I didn't even look at your TikTok.
I'm starting to focus more on that, but I haven't.
Yeah,
quite got there yet.
And I don't know if that's because people are so interested in the way you talk about law on there, and then because the way you present law is like way different than your average attorney.
Yeah.
You know, I'd say like you're like the 1 out of the 100 attorneys. Like you're like the fun and cool guy. Like
I appreciate that.
Explain it in a way that like us regular people with lower IQs can like actually get. And so no, that's good. But you know, you're sharing a lot, right? You're open, you're honest, you're very vulnerable. Is there something that you've been dying to share that you just haven't shared with anyone before that could help our audience?
I mean, I don't know that if I haven't shared it, but I think something that people need to be very clear. Like, you're going to doubt yourself all the time, and it's okay. Embrace it. Like, you have to embrace the doubt. Like, too many people think they'll get to a point in life where they have it all figured out. Like, I tell the attorneys in my office, you know, when I was a young attorney, I remember looking at guys that were practicing 20 years. I'm like, these people know everything. Like, I'm never going to be that good. I am that guy now. I'm like, I don't know shit. Like, I just know how to solve problems. Like, I still doubt myself every day. But I think people think you'll get to a point in life where that's gone. The self-doubt's like, gone. Whoa! Yeah, like I've arrived. I've figured it out. It's like the older I get, the more I know I don't know.
Yeah, everyone's just winging it, right?
Yeah, it's true. It really is. I mean, we really are. I mean,
I just want to make sure I'm not the only one.
No. Listen, I just know what I'm good at. I'm really good at solving problems. That's it.
I will say, because you said something earlier, like our people, our community, our family, like they all think we do have it figured out. That's the crazy part.
They do, yes.
And that is the lonely part. So like when you have these self-doubts, like who do you who do you share those? Do you share those? Do you keep those internal? Like what's your process for like when you're doubting, like, because I know that sometimes the worst thing is just keeping them inside and like, ugh.
You have to find an outlet. So I have a business coach I've worked with for years. So we meet once a week over Zoom. So I share a lot with him. Then I have a close circle of friends that, my circle's gotten very tight knit but deeper. So I have like 3 or 4 guys, and when we're having those moments, we just get together and vent and talk through it, because we've all faced the same problems. We're all in different industries, but we face those same problems. So we just help each other solve them, because sometimes I just need to vent. Sometimes I need someone to help me solve the problem. Sometimes I need people to just tell me you're an idiot. like that's the wrong way to look at it.
Sounds like the conversation I had with my therapist last week.
Yeah, I mean, listen, yeah.
Have you ever been in therapy before?
Yeah. That whole like I said, the book I'm writing now is about going through that dark journey of the shadow self, Carl Jung's shadow self. Like I went through that period, like in probably 2019 into the pandemic. And I was
Tim Grover talks about that too.
It's an ugly, ugly period, but when you come out on the other side, it changes everything, man. And I was going through a therapist through that time, and it was so helpful because I didn't understand it. And then as you're going through it, you start looking at that dark side of yourself, the evil side, the monster in you, like all the qualities you think are bad, but when you learn to harness them differently, it truly makes you a more powerful human being.
So, wow, that's great that you said that, because my next question kind of plays off that. We all have moments that we're not super proud of.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's things that we've done in our life that we're kind of ashamed of. Reflecting like on your own journey, is there an experience that you feel comfortable enough with sharing with us today that like taught you a really valuable lesson about life?
Yeah. I mean, I think I've messed up so many times and I've had so many of those moments, but I mean, even just the issues I've had with my wife and I had separated in the past, like it was, I was looking at it from my own perspective, and that taught me that it's not just about me. Like it's not, the world isn't about me. Like marriage isn't about me. And it was one of those moments where you take a step back and you start looking at it from the other person's perspective. And I'm like, man, I was a dick. Like I wasn't looking at it the right way. Like I was looking like this has all happened like when I was leaving corporate America. There was a lot of just shit going on in my head, and I was fighting for no reason. It was like I was trying to point out things she wasn't doing when I was really pointing out my own inadequacies. Yeah,
hurt people.
Yeah, and it was, and I had to really understand that, and it was a tough time, but we've evolved through it, and it's made it so much stronger. And it's just it's wild, like the ups and downs you go through. Like marriage is hard, right? Like it's just a hard process. It's a hard relationship. It's a hard partnership, and we had those ups and downs. But I think if you don't go through those ups and downs as a couple, you're masking a lot of stuff, because every couple has them. No one has a perfect marriage. And I think people try and pretend like they do. And in my mind, like we had to go through those because it just made us stronger, because we actually talked through it. We addressed it. We faced it head on and said, here is the things that are wrong with each other. And here's what we don't like, but here's what we're willing to accept. And that was one of those moments where it taught me that it's not about me anymore.
How long were you guys separated?
I mean, the longest period was probably about 6 months, 7 months. So we had a couple moments, a couple run-ins.
I went through that, which I don't think anybody knows about. I mean, a couple people know. This was like a year and a half ago. This is actually right after Evie was born, which I was very embarrassed about.
Yeah.
And me and Brittany separated for physically we separated for like a week.
Yeah.
Like she went to her mom's because of my inability to be able to almost like the similar situation. Like I'm trying to process all this stuff. I'm trying to go through my own.
Yeah.
Just had this baby. Now I'm dealing with it was just like very intense.
Yeah.
And I was very selfish.
Yeah.
And then I caught, and thank God for having mentors in my life.
Yeah.
I have two good, loving, like older men.
Yeah.
One's my EOS coach.
Okay.
One's another guy in the roofing industry. Called these guys up. Also called my pastor from back at my home church. So 3 guys. And they all told me the same thing. They said, look deep within, figure out like what's really true and what you really want, and then go after it. And I realized I wanted to go after that. Yep. And then, but I didn't know how to approach her again after I just told her that we needed to separate.
Yeah.
Because I was like, dude, I just put her through like probably hell.
I did the same thing.
And I'm like, dude, and I'm thinking like, Ben, like, why do you keep screwing up so many times? Like, why is this happening to me again and again? And I just realized, and I read a book called Radical Husband.
Okay.
Or How to Be a Radical Husband. And I think every man should read that book. And it's a short read. It's good for us ADHD entrepreneurs. 3 hours. I listened to it.
Okay.
And the dude just said he had the similar situation. Yeah. And then as he reflected on it, there was a lot of principles in there, that book, that I realized, I was just being selfish.
Yeah.
It's like weird. It's because like I had empathy for almost everybody else.
Same here. Yes.
Like I learned how to be like a great salesman and a great CEO, great coach, like whatever. Like I am to like all these other humans. But for some reason, the person that mattered most in my life, I couldn't figure that one out.
Yeah.
And that's the one that actually the only one that matters, because that's the one that fills your cup to be able to go out and give to the world.
100%.
That's what I've been learning. And so like, I feel like those, and it's hard to share those stories publicly because like, I don't want to embarrass my wife, or I don't want to embarrass like myself, but like, I also believe that those are really important because and I don't know how to do that because like, you know, me and you we're very similar. Like we like to share.
Yeah.
Because like, you know, we don't want to hold nothing in, man. Like there's no secrets, right?
I don't go out and announce it to the world, but I'm not going to not share it if someone asks a question.
But I want to know, like, you know, like in saying that, like on social media, right? Like you either see the people that are, you know, like everything's great.
Right.
Because like we're trying to keep it positive.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
And then there's the people that are like just everything's negative. But like, that's extreme too. Like I'm always looking to figure out like, and I guess maybe we just did it through this podcast. Yeah. But it's like, how do we talk about those things more to be able to make a bigger impact? Because I believe that those things that are happening inside the home, if you can help fix those, and everything else in business like just clicks.
That's exactly right.
Like I don't even feel like because then have, you know, the relationship with your business partner, the people at work that are closest to you, your biggest clients. Yeah. Like if you can solve that relationship with your wife and you can get through that, I mean, those guys are like a pain. That's like a breeze.
That's exactly how I look at it, and it's true. And there's one thing my wife said to me that made it all click for me, and kind of like what you said, like how she said, everybody else gets the best of you, and I get the worst of you. Yeah. And that hit me in a way that was like, oh, like it just hit me. And she had said that in different ways in the past, but for some reason, like that time, it's like, you're right. Like, man. And I think, again, people don't like to talk about it because people don't like being vulnerable. Like I've just come to the point, like I'm 46 years old. Like I'm vulnerable. This is me. Like it is who I am. Like what people will like me or they don't. And it's not my decision whether they do or don't. It's, you know, that's how I look at life. And I think more people should share this stuff because we all have stories, and the stories we can share with one another about the negative and the faults and the flaws can really help people, one, feel like they're not in it alone. Like other people go through it. And it's not as bad as you think it is. Because sometimes when you're in it, and you're not sharing, you're like you feel alone, you feel isolated. Like no one else understands what I'm going through. It's like many people do, but no one's talking about it.
Yeah, that's when like in those times in my life, that's when I feel like I get where people like talk about depression because I've experienced like fleeting moments of like that. Yeah. And then also anxiety of like worrying about the future and like, you know, not sharing like if I'm good enough, like how am I going to make all this work? How am I going to keep all these balls in the air? Right? Company, family, this like, you know, community, like all the stuff that I got going on, right? It's like sometimes like I just wish all those balls could just like drop. I could go over here and crawl in a corner, suck my thumb and cry a little bit.
Listen, there are many days I have that. I'm like,
how often do you cry?
I don't cry. Like I deal with emotion differently.
Okay.
Like I cry when my dog died. Like when my grandmother died. Like when I've used
like
losses.
Super sad things.
Yeah, like super sad things. I think my emotion, you know, I get very introverted. Like when I'm going through something, like I just kind of clam up and just keep to myself. Because I know like
it's almost like you're shaking in the cold with like a blanket on.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's like because I know what I have to go through to get through it. And there's sometimes where I know no one can really help me with it. It's something I just got to process myself. So I don't want to put my shit on anybody else.
One thing I've learned, and I don't know if this will help anybody, but I've learned how to like lean into crying more. Okay. Like usually most of the time privately.
Yeah, I understand.
And just like for some reason, like those tears just like shed it all away. Like it's like,
no, I understand that.
And then
completely.
I listened to that Jimmy V speech.
Okay.
You've heard the like the you know the SB speech where it talks about like, you know, you got to laugh, you got to cry, and you got to love. Like if you do those three things, like it's a great day. Yeah. And so I've been trying to lean into that more. So I don't know if that helps anybody.
No, I mean, I think it's right. I think people are afraid to feel the emotion. Like I think life is about emotion. Like life is truly emotion. Yeah. And I think if you just embrace it and understand it, and embrace the ups and the downs and everything in between, that's what makes life beautiful in my mind.
Well, that's awesome. All right, I want to pivot away from some of that stuff because that's deep. Right?
Yeah, we got deep for a minute.
Let's talk about that TED Talk that you did on radical kindness. I've watched it probably 3 or 4 times. Okay. Tell me about like what prompted you to do a TED Talk. What was the prep like? Why did you do it on radical kindness? Like, give me like a little backstory on that.
So it started, I was speaking at like high schools and middle schools. It was like 2018, I think.
So during this whole time.
Yeah. Like,
you were
I mean, it was like
dark
2017,
zone.
2018.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it was kind of going through that. And I remember, I think it was Keystone Oaks I was speaking at. And at the end, like I think I say this in the TED Talk, one kid asked, like, what's the one thing that matters most in business? And my instant response was kindness. And like, it was deer in headlights. Like no one had ever told those kids that kindness mattered. I was like, shit, like that's a problem. Like I have kids, like, and I just I wanted to really explore that a little bit. And because I've always been that way. And when I say kindness, it's doing things for others with no expectation of anything in return. Like just being a good person, like helping people. I don't need anything in return. And I look at my life, and anytime I've done that, it's always led to amazing things, but I've never had the expectation that it would. So I just kept developing this and thinking about it and talking to more and more people that were telling me like kindness, like it's looked at as a negative in the workplace, in the business world. So I started developing, a talk, and I'm like, I want to talk about this. And I applied to, I think it was 4 or 5 different like TEDx. You apply to the TEDx events, right? They're all like independently run. So I applied to 4 or 5 different ones. I got accepted to one in Canada, and the one, I think it was somewhere like down south. And I chose to do the one, because you only do one. I chose to do the one in Canada.
Oh, you can only ever do one TED Talk?
In that circuit, on that topic. So I couldn't do it. I can do another TED Talk on a different topic.
Oh, gotcha. But you're only allowed to do it once with one talk. Okay.
So I chose the one in Canada. I'm like, I can just say I'm an international speaker now because it's in Canada. So that's literally why I said Canada. Meanwhile, I'm driving up there. It's like a blizzard. My wife and I drive up there. We're driving home. There's like, never driven in snow this bad. There's like little Honda Civics buzzing by me and just like weaving, like driving like crazy Canadians. But like when I chose to do that one, the prep was hard because like I'm a speaker. I can get up and talk off the cuff 90 minutes. Just give me a topic, I'll talk about it. With a TEDx talk, you have 12 minutes. That's all you have. And you have a limited spot you can move in. So every word, every movement mattered. So I took a lot of time writing the talk and doing the research. I wanted to find research that supported my position that it does matter. Like kind bosses matter. It makes better companies. Empathetic leaders lead to more productivity and creativity. So I did all the research, put the talk together. And I practiced for 6 months.
How'd you practice?
So once I had it written, I would go paragraph by paragraph. I would practice one paragraph at a time until I had it down, memorize movements, everything. And then I would just add the next paragraph and add the next paragraph. So I'd do one, get it memorized, and do 1 and 2. And just kept doing it that way until I got to the point where my kids were pretty much able to recite it.
Wow.
Like that's how much I was doing it.
Did you just always practice in like small groups, or did you ever do it in
Never
front
did
of
it in front of a group.
You never did it in front of a group. So but your kids heard it because you're
just at home.
You just walking around the house.
Yeah,
like
I would literally at home just
with your paper.
Yeah, I would literally do that. Yes, that's exactly what I would do.
Do you think could you recite it now, or is like
no, I know what I talked about. There's no way I could recite it because the words.
But you were word for word.
Word for word.
And then when you watched the tape back, like was it
2 words I messed up.
Was it flawless?
2 words.
Yeah, we should run that through the AI machine.
Oh, it made me so mad. I was like, I fumbled 2 words.
Did you know it when you were speaking?
As soon as it came out, I'm like, I fumbled 2 words. That was it. But it was the coolest experience because like I was nervous, right?
Yeah, they put you in it's almost like you're in a pressure cooker.
You are.
Yeah.
Because they only sell 100 tickets to these events. And then you had this, like the way theirs was set up, there was this little spot where the next speaker sits. So it was almost like a pressure cooker, like in this little ass room. So I was listening to music just to kind of get me in the right frame. Because I always subscribe to the Simon Sinek, like you're not nervous, you're excited. I could tell myself, I'm not nervous, I'm excited. So I got myself in the frame. And the moment I walked out and got into the red circle, I saw nothing. The crowd just literally disappeared. Didn't see anything. And it just came out. And then I walked off stage, and it was just like, it was like an out of body experience. It truly was. I think one, I practiced it so much, and 2, like the message mattered to me so much. And I just got out there, did it, left. And then what was even cooler is afterwards they had like all the speakers were kind of in this like atrium. So they had all people, you can talk to them. I probably had 50 to 60 people lined up to talk to me just to tell me they wish more people would talk about what I was talking about. Like, I believe in this, but no one in my company does. Like, I think we need to get back to kindness. Like, so many people, and that's what made the whole experience worth it to me.
Do you follow Gary Vee at all?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I followed him for years.
He's big on it.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's his whole thing.
It is
like just kindness, and I think it's a lot because his mom. That's what she rewarded when he was a kid, not grades.
Yeah,
like your mom's like get good grades, right?
Yeah,
like his mom was like, just be kind. If you could just be kind and bring home C's and D's, like I'm happy.
Yeah.
And so like that's an incredible like testament. Yeah. And I interviewed him on this podcast. And,
I saw that.
And
that's awesome.
And that was a really cool moment.
Yeah,
because he champions kindness.
Yeah.
And you know, guys like me and you are championing it now, and it's like we can make it look cool.
It's so important. I don't think people understand, like, it's what we learned in kindergarten. Like, it's not hard to be kind, but everybody's very egocentric and we're very self-centered as human beings, right? We look at things from our perception, and sometimes we have to look at it from other people's perspectives and just truly like looking at the world that way. It makes life easy when you're kind.
So you said you write another book. You have the book called The Alpha Way.
Yeah.
What made you write that book?
Again, coming from talking to kids, like both of those two moments in my life came from talking to kids. I was same kind of circuit I was on. And after the one, I can't remember what school this was, but they were like, what are some of the tips for business? Like, what are the things that matter? And I didn't really have a good answer at the time. Like, I gave them a bunch of just stuff that I thought. And I remember coming home thinking, like, let me think of what it would, if someone asked that question again, like, what would be the 5 things that I think matter most? And it was attitude, leadership, passion, hard work, and accountability. So I just wrote them out. They weren't in any order. And I started playing with them. I'm like, that spells alpha. Like, it was cool. Like, it just came to me. Yeah. So I started writing the book, and I got halfway through it, and I just stopped. Like, I just put it down. And I went to this entrepreneur mastermind in Lake Tahoe. This was like in that summer. I think it was 2019, I think is when I published it. And it was in July. My birthday's in August. And I was halfway through the book, and one of the guys that was there was a best-selling author. And he's like, why haven't you finished it? I'm like, I just don't know. He's like, I challenge you to finish it before your birthday. And literally I finished, my birthday is August 16th, August 15th, like 11 o'clock at night, I finished the draft and I sent it I had an editor look at it and I published it in September. So it was a book I was writing to myself.
I was just going to ask you, are you writing that to Little Rocco?
I wrote it to my 25-year-old self. That's when I was writing the book, I was thinking, what would I tell my 25-year-old self? Like, this is the stuff I wish I would have known at 25. And that's how I framed it. I'm like, I'm writing to myself.
How old's your son?
He's 22. He's 22. So it's like, now I'm writing to him. It's like, I want him to read it now.
I was thinking that too.
Yeah.
Like maybe like that's like this, secondary audience, you and then him and then the rest of the world.
Yeah. It was a cool process. Like, writing a book's hard. Like, it's hard, and it's, but it was easier for me because I knew who I was writing it to. When I framed it in writing it to myself, I knew what to say.
I believe I don't know if it's because I'm hanging out with lots more higher level entrepreneurs or whatnot that have wrote books. Like I was looking, so I just moved to Murraysville last week, and I was reorganizing my bookshelf, and I realized I had like 20 books.
Okay.
From like people that I actually know, like I can pick up the phone and call. Like, it's just like,
that's pretty cool.
And I was telling Leanne, my organizational expert that came over to help me, she's like, I was like, is that normal that I actually like know like these like 20 people? And then she saw a bunch of Gary Vee books. Yeah, I know him. Like, I mean, it's just like weird.
That's
like,
awesome.
And I like hated school. I hated books. And I've read like every single one of these books.
Yeah.
I probably read 60 books over the last 3 years. I've been like a junkie.
Yeah.
And so now I keep feeling like, but I've never considered myself like, oh man, I can't write a book. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't need, I know I can. It's just like, I keep feeling this weird little push to like write a book.
Okay.
And so for people out there that may be feeling like that, or maybe even just talk to me, like is there like a process for, cause your brain's like mine, and most of the people listening, ADHD, low entrepreneur, like, got shiny objects, got lots of things going on. The book's not really, I don't plan on making $1 million with the book.
You make no money with books.
Right. Yeah. No. So, and that's the hard part, right? It's just like, I'm trying to prioritize things, but it's also like one of those passion projects, kind of like the podcast.
Yep.
Right. Like, I've only spent money on this podcast. I haven't made $1.
No, exactly.
So like, what would your suggestions be to me?
Yeah. So here's what I tell you. One, don't write a book to write a book. Write a book because you have something you want to say. Like, that's the first bar. If you can get, like, I didn't want to write a book just to write a book. Like, I wanted to write this to myself. So I had a message to say. And then I subscribed to the Tim Ferriss philosophy of writing a book. 250 shitty words a day. Like, it's all I said, if I can write 250 shitty words a day, I was good. I checked the box. So I followed that process. I would just write. If I got to 250 and I didn't feel like writing more, I'd stop. Sometimes I'd go and I'd write 1,000 words. And then I'd go back the next day when I'd reread it, edit what I needed to, and then write 250 more. And that's the flow I got into. And that helped me because it wasn't overwhelming. I'm like, I don't have to write a chapter today. I just have to write one page, like literally 250 words.
So, but my brain's like all over the place. And so like, do you start with like an outline? Do you figure out like is there an order? Like, do I have a top, like for instance, like tomorrow when I wake up,
your topic first. What's your topic?
So you have the title of the book. So you come up with
Don't even come with the title.
like a through line or like a topic, and then you break it down into like you got to think about it like in chapters. Do you think about it in chapters next?
So the first one for me was easy because it was kind of like the 5 topics, right? So I had it broken down. I know people, and I've talked to many authors. I have clients that are authors. Some people literally will outline, like the old school outline, Roman numeral I, A, little I, like I'm like
all the way in, right?
So you got to do what works for you. For me, like all I needed was the chapter topics, and I just free wrote. Like I didn't try and follow an outline. Like my brain doesn't think that way.
Gotcha.
I don't think in like steps.
Well, either do I. That's why I was wondering, like, can I like just start writing, and then eventually like we can put it all together, clean it up,
I would definitely organize.
Somebody can organize it later, and like
there's people out there you can say you just put your thoughts on paper, and they'll help you organize it.
Yeah,
and if
there's a company out there where you can speak into like a Zoom meeting or recording, and then they'll just ask you a bunch of questions,
and they'll put it together for you.
Almost like a podcast.
They will, absolutely, and that's what you got to find what works for you. Like I think everybody writes differently.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Definitely do it, man.
All right, and before we go, I definitely want to get into lawyer questions.
Okay, sure.
Just because I feel like if we have a lawyer sitting here, like that would be kind of
take advantage, man.
The first question I want to know is what makes you, because you're definitely a different human being, just period, no matter what your profession is, but especially like, I mean, I've met a lot of lawyers in my life.
Yeah.
A lot.
Okay.
Both good situations and bad situations. And I've not met somebody quite like you. And so like, tell me what your approach to law is, why you're different, like what do you do that's different than everybody else?
Yeah. So I think in every lawyer says is like, we care. I truly care about my clients. Like I'm very vested in their success. Like I want to see my clients succeed, and I take it very personal. And that's just how I've always looked at life, right? It's never transactional to me. Like I've turned away clients when I know they're just looking for a transaction. I don't want that relationship. So relationships matter to me. So that's first and foremost. Like every single one of my clients has my cell phone. They can call me anytime. We just approach the law from a different perspective. I'm very practical. Like I'm not going to send you a 10-page memo to cover my ass. If I tell you something, I'm going to own it. Like I'm going to own it. If I screw up, that's on me. Like it's not my job to screw up, but I'm not going to, there are a lot of lawyers, even when I was at a big firm out of law school, like always write your CYA memo. Like tell the client what they want to hear, but tell them why it could be wrong, just to cover your ass. It's
so I'm getting 2 messages in one. Like,
right, so I mean. So to me, it's like, no, like this is, so I advise clients different.
That's wimpy.
It is wimpy. It's a good way of putting it. So I think we advise clients differently. We take a very practical approach. We're very transparent with our billing, and we're just good human beings. Like I surround myself with good people. Like we're very slow to hire people because we want to make sure we have the right people that are good. Like we have our 3 core values. Like we're going to the EOS, right? Our 3 core values are first and foremost, be a good human being. Like you have to check box 1. Box 2 is have an entrepreneurial spirit. Doesn't mean be an entrepreneur, but be able to think outside the box, take some risks, push yourself. And then the third one is get dirty, meaning I'll take out the trash. That means you can do it too. Like be willing to do whatever needs to be done to help everybody. And I think we just approach it that way. And we just, I always say we are a business that sells legal services. So we just look at the way how we treat clients. Like I don't know if you read the book. If you haven't, read it, Unreasonable Hospitality. It's by far the best book I've read in 2 years.
Really?
I've read it 4 times already. My entire team has read it. It's about the restaurant industry, but if you own a business and you follow these
kind of like Raving Fans. You ever read Raving Fans?
I have. It's way better.
All right. Wow.
It's way better.
All right. Cool.
It's way better. And so we look at like, how can we go above and beyond for our clients? Sending thank you cards, doing those little things. And that's just what makes us different. And people actually like us.
All right. So what's the number one question that you always get from entrepreneurs and business owners when it comes to law?
Recently, because of TikTok and social media, I can't tell you how many people have called the office and said, hey, I need to get a trust, a holding company, and 5 LLCs. I'm like, okay, well, what do you have? Well, nothing yet. I'm going to start a business. I'm like, well, what video did you watch on TikTok?
Yeah, because that's what those guys do.
That's what they do. And I'm like, you don't need all that.
So I had a buddy, I think I just connected you with. Yeah, I don't even know if you guys have talked to him.
I spoke to him. Super nice guy. But he's got a lot of stuff going on.
And he does have a lot of stuff going on. He was like, here, and he hit me with like, I want to create trust. I'm thinking like, dude, you're like 32 years old. Like, what do you mean like trust? Like, I don't even know I know what trusts are, but I'm like, do you really need those yet? Like, I don't know. Yeah. And so like, Yeah, because I see the same TikToks,
Yes.
and I'm thinking like, dude, everybody's getting programmed.
Everybody's getting
which is probably helpful for attorneys in the business thing.
No, but I've turned so many clients away from that. I'm like, no, you don't need that. Like, how about we get one business set up for you?
Yeah.
We can always make adjustments and restructure things down the road, but I'm not going to have you pay a bunch of money for things you don't need. Like, there are a lot, and that's the problem with social media. It gets people into this frame of mind where they think, I need a trademark, I need this, I need that. I'm like, okay.
Everybody's Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, I'm like, have you sold anything yet? Well, no, I haven't. I said, well, how about let's make sure you have a product that sells, because your logo may change, your name may change. You have common law trademark rights when you start doing something in commerce. Don't spend $1,000 to do it yet. Like, don't waste your money. Let's make sure it works. Like, a lot of lawyers will just take the money to do it. Like, I'm a relationship person. So I want to see my clients serve the best way. And that means me turning away a lot of business every week.
What's the next common question that you get?
Well, so it's not a question, it's a statement. I have my independent contractor employees. I'm like, well, that's not the same thing. They're either employees or independent contractors.
Yeah, you can't say that happens a lot in the roofing industry. So if you were in my industry and you were on all the social pages, people are talking about, because they have a lot of 1099 salespeople. That in one breath they say, that's what they say, and I'm like, I'm cringing inside, and I don't want to be that guy on Facebook that like goes in and try, because I'm not an attorney. I've been married to one, got divorced, had a lot of attorneys in my life, but I am not going to go on a comment and say that and be that negative guy and be like. But like, dude, that is such a problem.
It is a huge problem, and it's like a hot button issue right now with the Department of Labor.
Well, yeah, because it's easy, low hanging fruit for those guys.
And that happens so often. I'm always like, let's take a step back. I said, tell me about the relationship you have with this person, and I'll tell you whether they are an independent contractor or an employee. Because people want to do it because they think it's easy, right? I just pay them, they deal with the taxes. It's like, okay, but if they're coming in, you have them working hourly, you're controlling their work, you're giving them the tools. They're an employee and you're skirting employer taxes. Like, there's a lot of risk in that. That's probably the second biggest issue that we deal with, that distinction between contractors and contractors and employees. The third one is just sometimes people want to fight over things that you shouldn't. Like, they'll have a dispute, say, I want to sue this person. I say, okay, well, what's that dispute? Well, $500. I said, okay, well, how about
tell me bill at $500 an hour? I mean,
what I tell them,
just tell them that first. Be like, this consultation gonna be $500.
Well, we don't charge for consultation.
No, I hear you, but I'm just saying, like,
that's what I tell them. I said, listen, you're going to spend more than that. I said, sometimes you got to chalk things up to a bad business.
Do you ever just pull the $500 out of your pocket and say, here, take this, come back and see me when you really need me?
No, there has been clients over the years where I'm just like, they're fighting over the stupidest shit. There was one time, and I'm not going to tell you the client, but
no, of course not.
But we were.
Tell us the story for sure.
Me and the other attorney were just like, they were fighting over it. Like, literally, it was down to like $1,200 between. They were off like in this negotiation, and me and the other attorney were just like, what the fuck? To the point where we're like, I'll kick in $600 if you kick in $600. We just won't tell our clients. We'll like, you tell your client he won, I'll tell my client he won. And we were just about to do that until they finally agreed. But I was at the point, I'm like, I'll put in $600, you put in $600. You tell your guy he won, I'll tell my guy he won, and no one will know the wiser. No one will be the wiser. Because that's what happens. They were digging it was a principle matter.
So emotional, isn't it?
So emotional. I always try and be very logical, and I get emotional with my clients, but I also have to be the voice of reason. I'd say, let me just step out of it for a minute. Like, we're talking about $1,200. However many times you call me and make me write letters, you're going to waste that money. Just take the deal right now. But they get really caught up in principle. And principle does matter, but you can't let it impact you in a way where you make foolish business decisions.
Wow. What's the funniest thing that you've ever experienced? Like, obviously leave the client's name out of it, but like, tell us a funny story.
God, I mean, you got to define funny.
Like, I don't know, as funny as you can think about that maybe you haven't shared anywhere else. So like, it's just like, it's like a behind the scenes funny. Like where like the client didn't even know, but like you're laughing about it behind the scenes because it's just so freaking ridiculous.
I mean, there are a lot of clients that will, they've been sold a bill by someone, like they have the best business idea in the world. Like, literally, I remember, meeting with they were students from CMU, very smart. And someone told them, this is an amazing idea. But you need to get it set. You need to have a C Corp, you need to get investors. I sat down with them and talked to them. And basically they were describing to me a software program that already existed, Evernote. I'm like, so you invented Evernote? They're like, it's not Evernote. I'm like, well, it is. It's literally the same thing. They're like, no. But you can do this with us. Evernote can do that too. So they were debating with me, and I'm just like, are you kidding me? It's because someone told them, 3 or 4 people told them, best idea ever. You're going to make $1 gazillion. Go set up a C Corp. Everybody's going to give you money. I'm like, well, I feel like Evernote already exists. There's nothing unique about it. In the background, I'm thinking to myself, who told these guys this? Like, that happens a lot when you have a lot of these students that are coming out of these incubators. Someone's telling them they have a really good idea. And I'm just very honest with people. I'm like, that's not a good idea. Like, I've seen it happen before.
But all right, so I want to balance that with like the people that told us when we were younger that like we couldn't do it or that's not a good idea. So how do you balance that too? Because like there's the people that like that could fuel me and be like, I'll show you.
Well, that's a good question. I think it's not me saying they can't do it. It's the idea is not going to work because it's already been done. Like, I'll tell people, like, if someone will come to me with an idea that I've already seen not work, I'll tell them, I've seen this before. It's not going to work. But I'll also say, here's a suggestion to pivot. And I try and give people a pivot. Like, I never want to, impact someone and make them feel like they can't do it. Like, I always want to support them, but I also want to be real and practical and say, don't spend a bunch of money on something that I've seen tried 3 or 4 different times and it's never worked. It's just, it may be a good idea and solve your problem, but have you asked the market if anybody else has this problem?
So have you ever had a client like that where you're like, yeah, I'm not going to help you with that. And then they went out and did it anyway with somebody else. And you're like, dang, man, like they did it. Like, have you ever seen it?
Not in my 20 years so far. No, I haven't. Because I don't say that very often.
No, I know. I hear you.
I only say it when I know, like, for certain I've seen this fall on its face. And it's, so I haven't. Maybe I just haven't been aware of it, but I haven't.
But you're one of the few attorneys out there that will actually like say no in business. And not just take their money just because it's easy, right? Because these kids, they got more money than brains sometimes, these young kids. I wish how do they have so much money? Like, I never had that much money when I was a kid.
No, if I had $20, I'm like, this is gonna last me a month. Like, I'm gonna make this last me a month, and now they waste money like crazy.
How do you feel? Because I haven't talked to you in a while.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this AI and artificial intelligence? How's that affecting law from your side of it?
Yeah.
Because I feel like it could commoditize it a little bit on some some easy money from writing all this like contracts with law.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I practice with the Chat GPT and say, write me a collections letter, make it look like it's from my high powered attorney, and put it in Johnny Cochran's voice, and like boom.
So I love AI. I think the legal industry needs to embrace it. Like, we use it in our practice because it helps eliminate time, right? If I can summarize a document using AI in half the time, then my clients save money. Right.
As long as you're like not charging them as much, right?
No,
but there's some attorneys out there right now, dude, that are just whipping this stuff up, dude, still charging.
I mean, there's attorneys that got busted by the courts for like using Chat GPT to write a brief, and it had just fake court citations in it. So there's been multiple cases that they just, like, big firms where this happened, the court's like, these cases don't exist. So there is with Chat GPT and all this AI, like I always say, if you are a professional and you're afraid of AI, that's because you're not really good as a professional. I'm not afraid of AI because if someone wants to use AI, I'll just beat you on procedure. Like, AI can teach you how to throw a football. I know the rules of the game. AI doesn't know the rules. Like, if someone wants to litigate themselves through AI, cool. Do you have the right fouling? Is it in the right font? Do you know all the court rules, like how the timing of everything? Like, I'll just beat you procedurally. So that's how I look at it. But I use AI.
What if you prompt it like that with that though? And you just start prompting it like that.
Do you even know what to ask?
Well, no, maybe not me.
That's
but
what I mean. Most people don't.
Yeah.
I've seen people try and use AI.
So where do you think it's okay for like the average consumer to use AI when it comes to law versus like then calling the attorney to like actually get it done?
Yeah, I think like what you did, right? Writing a collection letter. If it's coming from your company, right, that's perfectly fine to do.
Yeah, because before I used to have to pay, a law firm $250 to write me a collection letter. And I'm like, dude, like it's just like an email.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
That's all it is.
That type of stuff, the low hanging fruit, where you don't need an attorney behind it, right? Where it's just in a collections letter, like just have ChatGPT.
It just sounds good.
Yeah,
sounds
exactly.
demanding.
Yes, exactly. And that's the thing with ChatGPT and all these AI, you have to know how to do the prompts, right? And if people don't understand the prompts, it's going to come out like crap. But I think that type of stuff. But where I've seen clients get caught up, because I've dealt with unwinding things. They've used Chat GPT to create agreements that they've signed with other people that were wholly lacking because they're missing certain provisions. And unless you know what
you
to
got to
look
prompt it
for,
to tell the provision, right? I mean,
but you have to know what provisions it needs, right? Like if I'm dealing
write me a list of 20 provisions that I might possibly need. I'll look at them over and then I'll pick my favorite 7 that I want to put in there.
Right provisions for what? Just think about that. Like if you're putting together a company,
you still need the strategy guide. I think
Right.
it's like, and you can work both together.
Yeah,
definitely save a lot of time and make it
100%.
more impactful. That's funny though that the attorneys have been getting busted.
yeah, more than once.
That's pretty cool.
It's ridiculous.
How do you feel about ChatGPT? Like also like being able to pass the bar, like because I heard that like happened, right?
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's
pretty easy, right? It's just like
the bar. I didn't think was hard. It's just an endurance test.
Mr. IQ 146 or whatever he said.
No, it's not that. It's just the bar exam is the one time in your life if you do what they tell you to do, there's no reason you should fail. If you put in the time and do what the bar prep courses tell you to do, you should pass. It's an endurance race.
It's just like the FAA Part 20 or 120 or what's it called, the 107. Yeah, for the drone inspections. I'm talking to Cody, our producer, and like all my salesmen have to take the FAA test.
Okay,
and, it's like 20 years after they've been out of school. Right. It's really hard. It's got all this aviation stuff in it. You'll never ever need it for anything else. But like if you want to you don't want to get busted by the drone police, which I don't think exists, but
I know
it's kind of like as long as you put the work in, you do it. Like you shouldn't fail.
No, that's it. And that's. But
half my people fail on the first time because again,
but you got to put the work in.
Yeah, they got to put and they have to not be distracted while they're studying.
Yeah, that's it. You got to do it undistracted. Yes, it's 100%.
And so that's the other thing I want to figure out, with attorneys, is like, especially you, the entrepreneurial ones, right? Because there's a difference, right? Yeah. There's an entrepreneurial attorney, which is probably, like I said, 1 out of 100. Which is probably like the same ratio for life. There's 1 out of people that are like the actual entrepreneur. How did you? With the way your brain works, how are you able to get through law school, and how are you able to? Was it just purely on your intelligence, do you think that just helped you, just fight through the rules of engagement? Because you're a creative guy too, you don't want to play by the rules all the time, right?
It was so the one thing with law school is first year's all that matters, really. That sets your class rank, right? If you come out in the top 20 of your class, you're pretty much set in law school. So literally, I focused on first year. I kind of knew the system. I said, okay, I've got to bust my ass for my first year. It wasn't intelligence; it was work ethic. I was at the school every day at 7 a.m. I didn't leave till 7 o'clock at night, 5 days a week. And on the weekends, I just put in the time and just studied. I was the idiot that would go to the gym on the Stairmaster and have my law book reading it.
Yeah, because when did you graduate? You were in the 90s, right?
That was 2003 I graduated
2003 law school. So the internet was still pretty, but it wasn't
we didn't use it.
You didn't use it as much.
So
right?
I had this big ass law book on the Stairmaster gym because I read what I did in law school is I read everything 3 times. So the first time I would read something, I would just read it. Second time I would read and highlight. Then the third time I would read what I highlighted and take notes. So everything in law, that's how I did it. And that was a system that I just did. And it was just, my intelligence probably helped solve problems, but it was purely work ethic. That's it.
I like that little hack. Is that how you read books today? Because you said you read this other book 4 times already. So do you skim through the first time to get the context, then the second time you're going in a little deeper, then the third time you're going real deep to understand?
So I'll read books over and over again, and I'll get different things from every time I read it. So if it's a book that I'm like, that was a really good book, I want to read it again to get something different. Because I read 2 books a week typically. So I'm constantly reading. So if I did that, I'd never get through the books.
Gotcha.
Sometimes I'll read a book and listen to it on audio because it just works my brain differently. So I'll intake the information differently.
So what's next for Rocco? You do a lot of you got obviously the law business. You got the nonprofit.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the future of where you see things, because now you're a big media personality, content creator. I'm famous.
Well, no. The law was my first love. So I look at the law firm as the legacy I want to leave. I love the fact that my kids will wear the shirt with my logo on it and be proud of it. So it's really building that legacy. Matt and I have talked about the firm. We want it to be 100 lawyers in 10 years. We want to grow to be a big firm, but still operate like a small firm. Have the culture, the mentality, the good human beings. So that's the firm itself. That's kind of how I'm in the sprint of life. I'm focusing on the firm and building it. The foundation is kind of my passion project. We started this last year because I really wanted to help kids. and like underprivileged kids. So we started the CLG Foundation, which is, it's meant to, and we're starting the programming next fall, where we're going to go in and bring entrepreneurs that didn't follow the traditional path of college, going into some of the underserved school districts and talk to them about different paths they can take, right? You don't have to go to college. There's different things you can do. And then we're raising money because in the spring, we're going to do like a Shark Tank pitch competition and invest in a kid that has it doesn't have to be unique. It could be a landscaping business, but if they're a hard worker, they have a good business plan, and we think they'd get the right investment, we're going to invest potentially up to $10,000 into the business and then advisory services. Just
you gonna get equity, or just give it to them?
No, it's purely a nonprofit. Like I want to just give back. So so we're doing that gala now. It's our second year. We did a test run last year, so we have it May 17th. So yeah, it's cool. Like I want to do something bigger than myself. And that's why we started it, because I have a passion for helping kids. And I think, there's so many smart kids out there that just don't have the resources or the ability to connect with the resources. And I want to go in and help those kids, show them there's a different path to life.
Yeah, I found that fulfilling. Jefferson High School asked me to do that for a couple of years ago. Yeah. And they teach like a incubator, they call it incubator. Mm-hmm. And I think our friend David Allen did it.
Yeah,
he's the one that told me about it. And then somehow one of the teachers connected me, and then I think I did it 3 years in a row, and that was pretty fulfilling, going in and teaching kids about brand. Because they wanted me to teach you on what your expert is, right? So branding, marketing, and that was really fun to be able to and a lot of those kids have stayed kind of in contact with me a little bit. And I had this one kid that he literally calls me up once a month. And just ask me questions. He's literally always picking my brain. I said, pretty soon, bro, we'll have to start sending you a bill. I said, you're getting old enough to make money, man. Come on, man. Let's go.
Or just invest in this company, man. Take some equity.
Well, that's, it's real. But I've found that I really love helping entrepreneurs unstuck themselves. Unscatter. I have a friend named Bob Schenefeld, visionary EOS guy, wrote a book called Unscatter the Chatter.
Okay.
Right. And so as these as young boys, we had all this up here. Yep. We were just trying to figure out how to harness it. Right.
Yeah.
And so
absolutely.
And to me, that is something to, because I wish somebody would have done that with me.
Yeah, that's exactly.
I wish there was a path, because when I was a kid, there was no path for that.
Yeah, no one in my family.
Now Gary Vee makes entrepreneurial thing looks so cool that almost everybody wants to get into it. And that's a problem too.
Absolutely, it is, because you have to understand how hard it is.
Yeah,
it's the hardest thing you ever do.
Have you read? Did you know Gino Wickman also has a book called Entrepreneurial Leap, which is not an EOS book. It's not an EOS book. It is a book that he wrote for the young kid.
Okay.
And it's about the 6 principles that you need to have to be an entrepreneur. Okay. So then that way, not everybody jumps into it. Because a lot of people do it because now we're the new sports athletes. It's actually cooler. It's actually cooler to be an entrepreneur now.
I know, which is
than
crazy.
It is to be LeBron James or Michael Jordan. Which is because growing up for us, it was hey, we want to be like Mike.
Yeah. Bo Jackson was my guy. That was my guy.
Right. Bo knows, right?
Yes,
but now it's people are looking up to the Steve Jobs, and Elon Musk, and Jeff Bezos, and Bill Gates, and all these, now the entrepreneurs that they can actually talk to, guys like us.
Yep, exactly.
And it's that's the cool thing to do.
It is.
And it's we're overnight successes because of it. But if they listen to these stories, they'll realize it's a life of turning your pain into purpose, right? And becoming present and being able to help everybody. So.
And it's a 20-year overnight success, I always say. It took me 20 years to get here. And I'm not nowhere near where I want to be. I feel like I'm just scratching the surface, and it's taken me 20 years to get here.
But you're exactly where you're supposed to be.
Exactly, yeah. I always say I'm blissfully discontent.
Ooh, I like that. That could be a book.
It's truly, or blissfully dissatisfied. I love where I am. I'm super content, but I'll never be satisfied because there's no arrival. There's no arrival. I'm never going to call it quits. I'm never going to retire, right? I'm just going to keep doing and just seeing what I can build. And to me, I just fell in love with the process. So the goal just becomes secondary. It's if I tell everybody this, I said, if you fall in love with the process and just be engaged in the game of life, the game of entrepreneurship, the goals are secondary. They happen, but you don't even look at them anymore.
Bonus question.
Yeah.
I remember the first time that I ever actually sat down with you. We met downtown.
Yeah.
We had lunch.
Yep.
And crypto was booming back then. This was three years ago.
Yep.
I mean, it was booming.
I know.
And I feel like that's all we talked about. That
it
much.
was. It definitely was. Yes.
And it's booming again right now.
I know.
So how are you feeling?
I still have some. I've kept buying it. So I'm good. I like it. But it was one of those things where I would put money into it. I'm like, if this goes away, okay, it's not going to be the end of the world. Yeah. But it's I mean, it's great now. Like, I'm like, cool, this is good. And again, it's one of those things where I think there's great projects out there.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of bullshit out there too.
Yeah.
And I think over time, over the next 2 to 4 years, we'll start seeing some of that stuff sort itself out. But I love it.
Yeah, because I think at that time, I started investing into VFriends. Like, I invested into VFriends.
I remember you saying that, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. That's the NFTs and stuff, right?
Yeah, that's the NFT, like these, these cartoon characters, right? And now they go from like a napkin drawing that he sold and raised like $50 million.
That's insane, man.
And like, so I invested, but look at, I mean, I've gotten all this access. I've gotten to participate in the community. I spoke at VCon.
That's huge.
Like, it's so much more than just like the NFT itself. Like,
exactly.
people don't understand, like, these are actually like projects, like companies, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Communities that you can like get inside of that is completely like delineated from like your actual real life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that has nothing to do with me owning a roofing company. Has nothing to do with like my day-to-day life.
Yeah. It's wild.
But I'm in this like wild community. Like, I get to meet people. I have friends now all over the world.
That's crazy.
Like, man. I know a real estate guy in Japan who was raised in Australia, was born in Iran. So I have a friend like that. I have a friend that lives in France.
That's wild.
I have a friend that has a cactus farm in Australia. Like, I've met like all these incredible, all from VFriends, all these incredible entrepreneurs with incredible stories.
That's what's awesome.
And then I keep getting to like make a closer relationship with Gary Vee. Yeah. And I get to learn, right, about like how all this stuff works, because I don't really, I'm still trying to figure some of this out.
Yeah, the NFTs, I've never really, I know enough about them to be dangerous.
That's really what it is. It's like if you wanted to create your own Cozza NFT, to like help kids. Yeah. You get a bunch of people excited about it. You have a token to like, trade on. Yep. But it's really going to like help, support your mission for like kids, and then maybe you do access, and maybe talk some of your celebrities into partnering up with you to do appearances, and NFTs create activations to events, and like that's what this world.
No, I know
that's
you're
what
right.
this world's all about. I mean,
it's
and it's just
wild.
like the business side of having the blockchain, to where it's like it's all like there. It's public information, so you can see the good projects and the bad projects.
Yeah, I'm just hoping the government doesn't overregulate it. That's always my.
But don't you think? But I know. But then at the end of the day, though, like, don't you think that that's actually that'll be good, because like more creativity, and they'll fight it anyway.
Yeah, I
mean, because like the real creative people and the pioneers are gonna like they don't care if the government regulates it too much. Yeah, but it's gonna hurt adoption a little bit. Yeah, that's from all the safe people. But again, eventually, I feel like that's how all life cycles work in history. If you look at history, I feel like that's a whole nother podcast, but whole nother podcast. That was a rabbit trail here on the Big Fish Cares podcast. But like, that's a whole thing of like, that's how like a whole new shape of society is going to form. I mean, like, cause I don't like, when's the last time a government stayed the same for like 300 years?
No, I agree with that.
I feel like we're posed to like make a big change. Like I don't know if we'll see it in our lifetime, but there's going to be eventually this system that we have. Yeah. I don't see that it can like maintain.
Well, no, and I think
financially we suck.
100%.
We have this 2-party system, which I think is very terrible. Very flawed.
Terrible.
I also don't know what it would look like with an 8-party system or a 4-party system.
You just need the best candidate, regardless of the party. You just need the best candidates.
Yeah, and so like it's just there's so many things happening right now in the world.
Sometimes I don't even understand, but I always say like I don't want government to regulate for regulation's sake. Like that's my fear. Like
there's too many lawyers that are in politics.
So exactly. I mean, you're right. I mean, 100%.
Old school lawyers too. We're talking like not the creative kind, like the old school ones that are like ran by fear.
I mean, look at the Corporate Transparency Act that came into effect this year. It's a bullshit law of the government overreach. It's like you have to now disclose ownership of companies to the government. If you don't qualify, if you don't do 5 million in if you're under 5 million in revenue and 20 employees, you're a small business, you have to now register with FinCEN all your owners of an LLC or all these different companies.
If you're under 5 million.
Yeah, if you're under 5
million. But if you're over 5 million?
If you're over 5 million and have 20 employees, you're considered a large company. You don't have to register. If you have
wait, why would they only want? Why don't they?
They're trying to avoid to stop money laundering.
So they think only the small companies do the money laundering?
Well, they're trying to get the people that set up LLCs that are multiple layers to hide money. So that was the intent of the law. but there's no real authority for the government to do it. And it's creating, like, we're doing it for clients now, and it's government overreach. You have to disclose, like, all of my LLCs I'm part owners of, we have to disclose to the government who owns it. Send your picture of your copy of your ID to the government. It's not a publicly accessible database, but it's government overreach. And that, to me, was regulation for regulation's sake.
What happens if you don't do it?
There's penalties. Civil and criminal penalties up to $500 a day. Now you have the entire year to do it if you were formed prior to 2024. But any entities that are formed now, you have 90 days to register. It's crazy.
Right off the rip.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and they want IDs.
You want the beneficial owner. So if you own 25% or more of the company, but where they get you, there's a provision that says or have substantial control. Meaning you may not have any ownership in the company, but if you're a VP or a C-level executive, you're now registered.
How often do you got to keep up with that?
Just once, unless things change. So you do the initial registration.
So like if I hire a VP and then I fire a VP, like I got to register.
If they are deemed to have substantial control. If you're not an exempt company,
who says that? Who says that rule? Like, how are you going to argue that?
That's what we help clients determine, right? And that's the problem. Like,
is this going to go to the Supreme Court?
I do believe it will.
Somebody's going to
It's already been challenged.
Somebody's going to fight it. Somebody's going to appeal it, right?
It already has been shot down by one court, but that doesn't mean the law is shut down. So I think it'll go to the Supreme Court.
Well, I do, and I believe we have a great Supreme Court right now.
I mean,
we have the most favorable Supreme Court, I feel like, ever for business, right?
I agree.
Right? Like ever in the history of time.
100%. And it'll be interesting what happens in the next term of presidency because someone's going to come off that court.
Well, I'll never forget the last 4 years when 3 people came off, and that was a blessing.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting that the next presidential term
because he put some young ones on. So but there's still a couple old guys.
Yeah, they're gonna come off. I think so it is a very business favorable court, but it's also a court that has been a little bit, in my mind, unpredictable in certain instances. There are certain cases I'm like that should have went the other way. And it didn't. But I think, to your point, like I agree, it's definitely the most.
But if it gets all the way to the Supreme Court, though, the Supreme Court's pretty. Right now, it's pretty.
It's pro business. It is pro business.
Which I believe is then pro America.
100%.
And then I believe is like pro world.
100%.
Like, because we're trying to set the pace for like other countries to be more like us as far as pro business. Now, a lot of other countries, we could take their advice on how to be more good to their people and take care of people and not take care of politicians and like,
it has to be a balance.
Yeah.
It has to be a balance.
Well, this has been a fun episode.
No, this has been great. Man.
I really appreciate it.
This has been awesome, man. This has been good. Yeah. We went down some deep rabbit holes. I liked it, man. It got deep. It was fun.
You had no idea what to expect probably.
No. I love doing that.
I knew I hit you out of the blue like last week. I'm like, I got to just get this guy. I've been trying to get this guy for a while.
Listen, man, I love it. I appreciate the opportunity, man. This has been fantastic. I love the setup.
If you guys got value out of this podcast, subscribe, comment below if you have any questions for the attorney. I can't promise that I'll answer you without sending you a bill. No, I'm just kidding. He will answer every single one of your questions. He's been more than willing ever to spend time with me. I know that, and other people. Absolutely. So you've made a great impact, not only on myself, but the community in Pittsburgh.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Thanks for everything that you do.